Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? So we're going to discuss jewels today, and essentially what jewels to wear in your gear. So essentially, right? You guys have probably all heard, or at least when it comes to the gear in this game, you've probably all heard about jewels in this game, and there's a couple of ways to do it, obviously, but almost everybody out there has kind of their own mythology as to what they believe is the best route when it comes to gear and how you should really apply it. Now, here's my 2 cents on basically, well, how to use jewels and gear in this game. All right. For those of you out there, all right, I personally do not recommend putting in gray or green tier jewels in your gear. Wait until they're at least blue. At blue, it's great. It's okay. It's not near as good as purple, but it's better than nothing. All right. Now, when it comes to gear in this game, when it comes to jewels in this game, it's important that you know what the gear is and what it's doing. So, having that said, all right, if you go to Predator Pauldrons and you're using this for cab defense, then, well, okay, so be it. You can put your cab defense jewels in there if you so choose. But for the most part, most of us are going to look at this for that travel speed, all right? That means you want to put travel speed gear, and that means, well, you're going to need travel speed jewels. Obviously, what usually associates with travel speed? Army capacity. So I recommend putting Nosferos jewels and Saber jewels or Trojan jewels, or really for that matter, any type of jewel that gives you travel speed you want to keep in your speed gear, all right? Because essentially what you're trying to do is increase your travel speed. Pretty easy. Obviously, when it comes to war gear, all right, I recommend that if you're going to have a set of gear and you want to stay completely mixed, then so be it, but increase all 3 attack stats. That's my general rule of thumb when it comes to gear. I always like to put 3 attack stats into my into my actual gear sets. And when it comes to trap gear, all right, and this is for those of you out there that are trapping, that's a definite must. All right, now I will argue that if you are somebody out there that wants to make the most out of their gear, I recommend you go this route, where instead of just, say, going 3 attack stats across, what you ought to really do is increase your Gargantua jewels and your cab defense jewels. And what you really ought to be aiming for is an attack jewel of some variety. And so what you're doing is ultimately increasing the stats to that one particular unit type. And I would argue that you should really only do that when you feel like you've gotten to a point where you can finally have individual unit sets. Again, I recommend that if you're going to do a set, finish it to its completion. But once you're at a stage where you can finally say, okay, I'm going to have a purely infantry set, then you should probably have a purely set of infantry-related jewels in your gear. I mean, really, there is a lot of gear in this game that can reflect what you want to wear. And obviously, we're not even getting into champion jewels. And part of the reason why we're not really discussing them really all that much is because they are a bit of a rarity for those of us that play this game mildly pay to play, and those even that play it free to play is probably not even remotely achievable. But for the few of us that are in fact, I guess in some sense of you have access to it. Obviously, if you want my 2 cents, obviously having champion jewels is like the king of kings. But of course, there are more jewels out there that I will discuss in future videos out there that do exist and that do in fact play a role in this game. That just to give you an idea, a green tiered champion jewel adds army max HP and travel speed. This is incredibly important to know because this isn't. Let's just say this is a game changer if you've got these at gold. But let it just be said, all right, when it comes to jewels in this game, it's important that you just kind of want to match up whichever you're using. So, like, you'll notice that I've got a travel speed and a travel speed together. That's just for the same reason that, I use it. It's just so that I have speed. But you'll notice that, like, when I switch over to something like wall trap gear, okay, the same rule applies, but wall defense jewels are, like, incredibly vital. All right. I would recommend that if you are wall trapping in this game, you must always have a wall defense jewel in your gear because it's super helpful. It's more helpful than you know. In fact, having a couple of these at gold is awesome because it just gives you an enormous quantity. But that's obviously there. When it comes to jewels, I mean, it's really straightforward, as far as what you're really using them for, because you ultimately want to match them. Now, you might notice in this situation that I've got a wall defense jewel, but then I've got 2 attack jewels. That's because part of the reason is I use that blight ring for 2 purposes. It's both being used for attack, but it's simultaneously being used for wall defense. Now, if I was, if I had a perfect world, I'd probably have another blight ring in this situation, but since I don't have access one, I probably won't worry about it. Obviously, if you're really aiming for anything, okay, when it comes to the jewels in this game, all right, especially with your monster hunting jewels, you want to make sure that you put your monster hunting jewels in your monster hunting gear. And again, like I said, having blue jewels is acceptable. Purple jewels are more than acceptable. But if it's green, most likely it doesn't really belong there, and it's really better left out. Yeah, because you're really not getting as much. I mean, really, 3%, like, it's okay. Double that, and you're still kind of like, well, what difference does it make? Not really, not much. But you can certainly see a difference with 6% across a set of gear than you will than 3% off across a set of gear. That's just my 2 cents on that. Obviously, having a set of purple is really where it's at, because that's really where you'll start to see the significant gain in the gear. But again, when it comes to jewels in this game, though, it's significantly important that you do keep track of the gear that you have them in, because essentially, all right, yeah, and I'll point this out now, okay, when you get into jewels in this game, you might notice that you can easily remove them, you so think, right? But it turns out that you gotta actually pay gems to pull these suckers out from time to time. And it ain't cheap, all right? 4,000 a pop across 6 other sets of gear is an expensive venture, let me tell you. All right, so if you want to avoid running into that situation, make sure that the jewels that you're putting your, well, essentially whatever you put them into, you want to make sure that is in fact what you want to do, because once you've done it, it's pretty hard to undone it, all right, without having to pay an extensively high gem cost for it. So make sure that when you do put your jewels in there, that you do in fact have a overall theme for it, because again, like I said, when it comes to jewels in this game, for the most part, the method has always been to put all of your attack jewels into the gear, or put all of one unit type into the gear. But, there are circumstances out there where you may find yourself in a situation where, the question of like, should I have an engine attack jewel in it? Look, it's really not, I mean, in my opinion, I really don't think engine attack jewels have any place in anyone's gear for that matter, but if you have a piece of gear that is serving the only purpose is to basically use for siege, then so be it. You can put it in there if you want. It's not really important. I hope that you don't put it in your attack gear, because it's not helping you at all. I mean, to be honest, it really doesn't help you, but we'll get into that more in the near future. But needless to say, I hope you guys enjoyed this little review over the particular jewels in the game, and I hope that it gives you some insight as to why I do wear the jewels that I do in my gear. But needless to say, just remember that the attack stats are incredibly vital to what makes a set of gear worthwhile, and that you're wanting to focus on the attack and HP and most of the time in your gear, but don't neglect the defense as much as, because again, a lot of the time your jewels can really make or break the difference, especially when they're legendary. It's an important thing to keep in track of. But needless to say, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do have a strategy and have more on this particular topic, and you want to discuss more about what particular jewel setups that you use in your gear, feel free to say so in the comment section below. And, well, I'll see you guys next time.